Welcome back. Today we're diving deep into the ancient world to learn about Xerxes I.
Oh, he's a fascinating one.
Right. And you've given us some great stuff to work with here. I think we can really paint a good picture of who he was for everyone.
Absolutely. From epic battles to those massive construction projects he was known for.
Right. And of course, no deep dive into royalty would be
Hmm.
complete without some palace intrigue.
Oh, of course not. It's going to be a wild ride.
I'm ready. So first things first. The name,
Mm,
Xerxes.
yeah,
It just sounds powerful, doesn't it?
it does.
Like you know he's going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
And from the stuff you sent over, it looks like it comes from Old Iranian Shayanasha.
Yeah, which basically means ruling over heroes.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely fitting.
Yeah, especially when you consider where he came from. I mean, talk about a legacy. Son of Darius the Great.
Darius the Great.
Exactly. The guy who really expanded the Achaemenid Empire.
And his mother, Atossa.
Well, she was the daughter of Cyrus the Great, the founder of the empire.
Wow. Talk about being born into power, huh?
Oh, yeah. It was basically destiny for him.
Speaking of coming to power, though, the way he became king is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like his dad, Darius, is preparing for war with Greece,
Hmm.
and then boom, Egypt revolts in 486 BC.
Oh, can you imagine?
Terrible timing.
Awful timing.
And then Persian law says Darius has to pick a successor before he can go into battle.
Right. Which is interesting, right? Because you would think eldest son, automatic, but that's not quite what happened.
Right. He actually had an older half-brother, Artabazan.
Yeah. Artavezan definitely could have made a play for the throne.
So why Xerxes? Why did Darius pick him? Was it just because he was technically like the first son born to him?
Primogeniture, right. Well, it was a factor, for sure. But there was more to it. Atossa, his mother, had a lot of influence in the court.
Oh, that makes sense.
Plus, there was this argument that because of his mother's lineage, Xerxes was a direct descendant of Cyrus the Great.
Ah, okay, I see.
And, legitimacy was a big deal back then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to argue with the guy who has a direct connection to the founder of the empire?
Exactly.
And on top of that, controls the Immortals.
The Immortals.
Right, that elite Persian fighting force.
I mean, come on. You're not going to mess with that.
It's like having a royal bloodline and a private army all in one.
Exactly.
Yeah, smooth transition, but definitely doesn't mean it's going to be a peaceful reign.
Oh, no. He inherited a whole lot of unrest.
And with an empire that big, right? The Achaemenid Empire. It must have been a constant struggle just to keep everything under control.
It was. I mean, think about it. So many different people, different cultures,
Yeah.
all under one ruler.
So take Egypt, right?
Yeah.
They were already in open revolt when Xerxes took over.
Yeah.
And he has to immediately, lead an army to squash it.
Ugh.
What a way to start your time as king.
Seriously. And then there's Babylon.
Oh, yeah. Babylon.
Not only did they revolt once, they revolted twice while he was in charge.
Twice. That's crazy.
I know. It really shows you how difficult it was to rule such a massive and diverse empire, like all these different groups, each with their own expectations of what a ruler should be, how they should rule.
Absolutely. So how does Xerxes handle all of this? Did he try to be diplomatic, or did he just go in guns blazing?
Well, let's just say he wasn't afraid to show everyone who is boss.
Okay.
After he crushed these revolts, he decided to, restructure things a bit.
Okay.
He took the Babylonian satrapy, basically, like a province or a region they controlled,
Yeah.
and he split it up, divided it into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Mhm.
Classic divide and conquer strategy, right?
But
Made it much easier to maintain control.
the material you sent also mentioned some other things that maybe went on,
Oh, right.
like damage to temples.
Yeah.
And a statue of Marduk.
Oh, yeah, the Babylonian god Marduk.
Yeah.
Well, that's where things get a little murky, I guess.
Murky how?
Well, some historical accounts, particularly from the Greeks, paint Xerxes as this, ruthless tyrant. They say he was incredibly harsh in putting down these rebellions.
Okay.
But other scholars argue that those accounts might be a bit, exaggerated.
Exaggerated.
Yeah, maybe even biased a little.
Makes sense, considering the whole rivalry between Persia and Greece.
Exactly.
Always got to remember, history is often told from a specific point of view.
Oh, absolutely.
It's important to think about, who's telling the story and what their motives might be.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about the whole conflict with Greece, a big part of Xerxes' story, right?
Oh, right. I mean, he really wanted to finish what his father had started,
Mm-hmm.
get revenge for the Persian defeat at Marathon.
Right, and the Greeks meddling in the Ionian revolt.
Yeah, they just wouldn't leave well enough alone, would they?
Nope, not at all. So Xerxes, he sets his sights on Greece, and he goes all in.
All in.
Oh, yeah. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian, he claimed Xerxes had an army millions strong.
Millions. That must have been incredible to see.
It would have been a sight, for sure. But, Herodotus was known to embellish things sometimes.
Embellish?
Yeah. Modern historians think the actual numbers were probably a bit lower.
Okay.
Still a huge force, though. It really shows you the vast resources the Persian Empire had.
Absolutely. And not only that, right, he also had a canal dug through Mount Athos.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make it easier for his army to move.
Incredible.
And built pontoon bridges across the Hellespont.
Yeah. What we know is the Dardanelles today.
Yeah.
Oh.
What a feat of engineering.
Yeah.
Especially that canal.
Yeah.
It just screams ambition.
Yeah, and power. This guy was not messing around.
No, he wasn't. And then there was the Battle of Thermopylae, right?
Oh, yeah. One of the most famous last stands in history.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
tiny force of Greeks.
Yeah.
Including those legendary 300 Spartans.
Spartans led by King Leonidas.
Leonidas, right. They hold off the entire Persian army in this narrow mountain pass.
It's insane when you think about it. Completely outnumbered, but they held their ground for days.
Wow, must have been intense.
Oh, it was. They inflicted huge casualties on the Persians.
Wow.
I mean, bravery doesn't even begin to describe it.
That they were betrayed, weren't they?
Yeah, sadly. Some local shepherds showed the Persians a secret path.
Ugh, that's rough.
Yeah. Let them go around the Spartans.
So they're surrounded.
Yeah. No way out.
Yeah.
But they still fought to the death. Became this, ultimate symbol of courage, defiance in the face of, possible odds, right?
Wow. So Spartans are out of the picture. What happens next?
Well, Athens is next on Xerxes' hit list, and he basically burns the whole city to the ground.
Oh, wow.
Sends a pretty clear message to the rest of the Greek city-states. Don't mess with the Persian Empire.
Yeah. You'll regret it.
Big time. Yeah. At this point, Xerxes was on a roll, right? Conquered most of mainland Greece, made it all the way to that narrow isthmus of Corinth.
It's like he was unstoppable.
Pretty much. He did what his dad couldn't do. But there was one thing the Greeks still had.
Which was?
Their navy.
Ah, their navy.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the Battle of Salamis, the turning point in the whole Persian Wars.
Yeah, the Battle of Salamis. Huge turning point. Really a clash of styles,
Okay, how so?
Well, the Greeks, they were led by this Athenian general, Themistocles, super smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew, going head-to-head with the Persian fleet, not a great idea. Their ships were massive.
Right, I remember reading about that. They just dwarf the Greek ships, right?
Yeah, totally. So Themistocles, he comes up with this plan. Lure the Persians into the narrow straits of Salamis.
I see. Force them to fight in a confined space.
Exactly. The big Persian ships, they'd be totally cramped, can't maneuver properly.
The Greeks?
Their ships were smaller, more nimble, they could zip around easily. Perfect for the straits.
Yeah. It wasn't just about brute force for the Greeks. It was strategy. Using the environment to their advantage.
Totally. They were playing chess while the Persians were playing checkers,
Yeah. But Xerxes, he still took the bait.
They did. Some of his commanders even warned him, hey, this is a bad idea. The straits, not a good place to fight.
But Xerxes, he was probably feeling pretty confident after all those victories, right?
Yeah, he was probably thinking, more ships, bigger ships. We're going to crush them. He underestimated the Greeks.
Yeah. Classic mistake. So how did it play out?
Well, the Greeks totally smashed the Persian fleet. It was a major blow to Xerxes, both, strategically.
Right.
And to his ego, too, probably.
Yeah, that pride must have been hurt. So what does Xerxes do next? Does he try to regroup, launch another attack?
Well, according to Herodotus, he freaks out a little.
Oh, no.
Starts thinking the Greeks are going to destroy his pontoon bridges.
The ones across the Hellespont.
Yeah, and trap him in Europe. So he decides to retreat. Back to Persia.
He just leaves.
Pretty much.
After all that effort, all those resources poured into this invasion.
Yeah. It does seem kind of sudden, right? But some historians think there might have been more to it.
Like what?
Well, they point to some unrest that was happening back in Babylon.
Okay.
Which, was a crucial part of the Persian Empire.
Yeah, they needed to keep Babylon under control.
Absolutely. So Xerxes might have felt like he needed to be back home to stabilize things. Couldn't risk losing Babylon.
So maybe it wasn't just fear of the Greeks.
Right. Maybe it was a strategic decision to deal with a more immediate threat to his power.
Yeah. Wow. It really shows you the complexities of ruling an empire that big, right? Always something going on.
Always.
Right.
Like, yeah, conquering Greece was a big goal,
Yeah.
but keeping the whole empire together, that was the priority.
Always got to keep the home fires burning, right?
Exactly. So he leaves. But he doesn't leave empty-handed, right?
Oh, what do you mean?
He leaves a big chunk of his army behind, under the command of Mardonius.
Rowdy.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
keep fighting the Greeks.
But that didn't really work out, did it?
Not so much. The Greeks, they actually end up winning a decisive victory at the Battle of Plataea the next year.
The Battle of Plataea.
Athens and Sparta, they teamed up,
Oh, why?
drove the Persians out for good.
Okay. So Xerxes is back in Persia. Defeated, but not, completely destroyed. What happens next? Does he try to rebuild his army?
Yeah.
Plan another invasion?
Actually, he goes in a totally different direction.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Instead of focusing on war, he becomes a builder.
A builder.
Yeah. He picks up all these grand construction projects that his father started at Persepolis and Susa.
Ah, I see. So from battlefield to building site.
Exactly that. He starts creating this incredible legacy of architecture.
Wow. Those massive palaces, the elaborate gateways.
All of that, structures on a grand scale, designed to show off the wealth and power of the Persian Empire.
Like that Gate of All Nations at Persepolis.
Yeah. The one with all the carvings of different delegations bringing tribute to the king. I mean, talk about a statement piece, right?
Yeah. It's like he's saying, yeah, I might have lost in Greece, but look at what I have. Look at how powerful I am.
It's definitely a way of asserting his authority, projecting an image of strength, even after a defeat.
Okay, I get it. But he wasn't just finishing his dad's work, right?
Yeah.
I saw something about the Apadana, some kind of grand audience hall.
Oh, yeah, the Apadana, and then there's the Tachara.
That's a Chara.
The palace that Darius built. Xerxes, he basically doubled the size of it.
Doubled it, wow.
Yeah, it wasn't just about needing more space. It was a statement, like, I am twice the king my father was.
I mean, it's impressive, but what was driving him, right? Was it a genuine love of architecture, a desire to, leave a legacy behind? Or was it more about compensating for that loss in Greece?
I think it was probably a mix of everything. He must have gotten some satisfaction from seeing these amazing buildings come to life.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore the political side of it either. The message it sent to his people, to other empires.
Like, don't underestimate me.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder how people saw him,
Yeah.
Did they see a powerful, successful ruler? Or did they still think about that failure in Greece? It's a tough question. And honestly, historians are still debating it today. It really depends on how you interpret things.
Yeah. History is rarely simple.
Right. Never is. It's all about understanding the context, the motivations, all the different things going on at the time.
Right. But even the most powerful rulers, the ones who reshape the world with their armies or their buildings, they're all still subject to the same fate, right?
Yeah.
Xerxes, his reign eventually came to an end. And the way he died is pretty interesting too, right?
Yeah, full of intrigue, definitely.
Assassinated in his own palace, betrayed by someone he trusted.
Yeah, talk about a dramatic ending. The guy had already seen so much.
So from the stuff you sent, it looks like the guy who killed him was Artabanus?
Yeah, Artabanus, the commander of his royal bodyguard in 465 BC.
Wow. Talk about an inside job, right? What was his motive? Like, why would he do that?
Well, it seems like good old-fashioned power grab, right? Ambition. Some accounts say that Artabanus wanted the throne for himself.
Makes sense.
So he supposedly frames Xerxes' son, Darius, the eldest, for the murder.
Oh, wow.
And then he gets another son, Artaxerxes, to kill Darius, to get revenge for his dad.
That's messed up. It's like Game of Thrones level intrigue going on here.
It is. Really shows you how dangerous it was at the top, even for a king.
Yeah. But it sounds like there's still some debate about what exactly happened, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With a lot of stuff from Xerxes' life, the details of his death are kind of fuzzy. We have all these different accounts.
Right.
And they all have their own spin on things.
It's like a historical puzzle where some of the pieces are missing.
It is. We have to take what we have and try to piece together the most likely story.
And of course, we have to remember who's writing these accounts, right?
Oh, yeah. Especially in Xerxes' case. Most of what we know comes from Greek historians, and they weren't exactly fans of the Persians.
Right. So they might have had an agenda.
Absolutely. They might have wanted to make him look bad.
It's a reminder that we always have to be careful with history,
Yeah.
Question everything. Think about who's telling the story and why.
Totally. But, even with all the unknowns, Xerxes definitely left his mark on the world.
Yeah, that's for sure. Expanded the empire, fought some massive wars, built incredible structures.
He was larger than life in a lot of ways. I mean, it's fascinating, right? You have this warrior king driven by conquest.
Yeah.
But also, he was this patron of the arts, you know? He created these amazing works of architecture, things that still inspire awe today.
It's like these two sides of the same coin. War and art, destruction and creation. It's all there in Xerxes' story.
It is. It really shows you how complex he was.
And how complicated leadership can be, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not always about clear-cut choices or easy solutions. Sometimes it's about balancing all these different forces, making tough calls, and, ultimately leaving your mark on the world, for good or bad.
And Xerxes, he definitely left his mark. Ruthless conqueror, visionary builder, tragic figure caught in a web of palace intrigue. I mean, he was all of those things.
And his story still fascinates us, thousands of years later.
It does.
So to wrap things up, we've explored a lot today, but more importantly, we hope we've inspired you to keep learning
Keep asking questions.
and to keep exploring the ancient world.
It's full of stories waiting to be discovered. So until next time, keep diving deeper.